everybody. Well, it is 20 after 1 here in Salmon Arm under sunny and cloudy skies, and it's very warm. We were up early this morning and Jack mowed the lawn and trimmed the edges while I hoed the garden. It's easier than getting down on your knees, so usually when I know it's going to get hot, I go out there and hoe them, and then they die in the sun, and then I kind of keep that up every second or third day, and it only takes no more than a half an hour, and then pretty soon you got everything under control and the plants are bigger. So that was on the agenda, plus a few other jobs. And today I finally have some time to visit with you. So what have I been doing? Well, getting ready to plant the 3 orchids I got from Rosemary, and doing research after all our company left, just going through, watching videos, reading on the internet about what everybody does with all 3 of my orchids. And my decision has been made. I'm going to tell you why with each one as I do it. And I'm going to show you all the orchids here. These have been in bloom since the end of February. So it's funny, most of them are in traffic cones. They're a little bigger pot, and they don't seem it because they're pointed. They look bigger than they are because I put wire in and stop it about a large pot size. So they grow roots to suit them. They're happy and they're just getting leaves and flowers. The other orchids are all out on the patio enjoying the weather with a humidifier going. So 2 humidifiers going and a fan when it's hotter. So let's get into this subject. So I've been running all around town this afternoon looking for charcoal. I used to buy Dutch tree charcoal because in a container where you have water sitting, it's always nice to put some charcoal so it doesn't start to smell or anyway, nobody. And I don't have time to wait for online. I never thought they were out of charcoal, but you can't get large perlite and you can't get charcoal. So there we are. So now what I want to do is show you the container I chose. And we are going to start with the Catasetums. And that's the one I'm finding the most interesting and most challenging. And why I've decided to go with what I'm doing. And I have made a note of the people that influenced me to make this decision. And one of them was Stephen Van Kampen Lewis. And I'll put his name under there. He has a YouTube. And his Catasetums look awesome. He said they're not fussy about what they're in. I believe he's in Tennessee, which is quite similar to our area, I think, climate-wise. And I liked it. I liked how he was growing them. And I also watched Brad's Orchids and Orchideria, and they do a similar thing, but they use a little moss. And you know me. Why I'm not going to use moss is because after my research and knowing me, I have never had good luck with using moss, and my watering habits suit bark. And if I was to change that now, I think I'd run into trouble. That being said, I have to run and get the Catasetum. I always forget something. So, that being said, now is not the time time you want to, there's a time when we should be fooling around repotting, but not when the leaves are this big and not when there's so many roots. And it's funny, this one is in moss, but some of the roots on the surface have little brown tips. And for me, it's never worked, and so I am not using moss. Now, I cannot change what they're in at this time without hurting them too much. So I have a plan made, but I do want to get them in the pot of choice. And I have had them in this container, and it has a wick, and it had water, and it's still just in the pot sitting over that. And so that was helping with humidity, because Catasetums, they like about 50 to 90% humidity. Well, I have trouble getting 50 most all the time. So I'll be supplying the humidity in some different ways. And so yes, it's in moss, and now is not the time to repot it. After their dormancy, and they're just starting to wake up, is the time I will be changing the mediums, hopefully. And so the first thing I want to say is I have this glass container, and it can't go in full sun, but it can be in very bright sun, especially the morning sun. So it can get lots of sun, and it will get lots of warmth. Their growing season is their wet season at the equator area. And so we have to mimic that for a healthy plant. So what I have here is there's Jack drilled holes in this, one of the things we were waiting for. And he used a diamond bit, and he does it in the sink with a handheld battery operated, not plugged into electricity drill, with a round diamond bit and water dripping where he's drilling. And that's what he did. And so these two holes on the bottom, here and here, they are because there will be a water well in the bottom. It'll help with humidity for the plant, and it's not necessarily where the plant is going to be, but it's called a water well. And these two holes are so the water does not get any higher. So in the water well, I have a lot of this black lava, about this size, and lava rock, and I took it outside and put the hose on it and washed it and washed it and washed it. Some people don't like to use the black lava in the plants, but anyway, it's been washed, and I'm going to carefully put the lava rock, just for a spacer. You can use styrofoam peanuts. People were using styrofoam. You can use rocks. You can use a lot of things for the water well. So very carefully, because this is glass, this will be filled in. And the little holes in the lava rock will also hold water and help with the humidity. So, the lava rock. So about like this. And it's okay if it goes a little bit higher. I don't want them plugging the holes. But the water will still drain out. So that's my lava. And I will put it out the way now. Now, in this bucket, I have my bark that has been soaking a week. Now, not intentionally, but it's, I usually do 3 days, but they like a humid thing. That's why most people use moss. So I soaked it a little longer, and probably wasn't necessary, but as it's getting its potting mix changed once a year, I'm not too worried about it. So the next thing we're going to do is put in some bark. And I do have a little bit of perlite here, and I don't think I'm going to bother with perlite because I couldn't get the big perlite I wanted. So we're going to put in bark. And what happens, you know, is you can flush out that bottom well, water the plant good, tip it on its side, let it drain out, and then make sure that the water in the well is getting refreshed. I notice that's what they say about the fish lately. You'll see fish in the store and it'll say refreshed, and it's like, what's that? What's that? So anyway, this plant is in moss, and just size-wise, how do I want it to sit? Probably up about like this. So I can put another couple inches of bark. I know everybody's surprised I've chosen this, but for me, I think this is good. And if it's not, I'll sure find out, won't I? And meanwhile, it's just going to be sitting in there. Let's see, a little more, a little more. If it looks dark water, it's from the seaweed extract because I did soak my bark in Kelly Magic and seaweed extract. Okay, now let's see what we're getting here. Okay. This roots go about there. So I'm thinking 1 more spoon of bark. There. And then I'm going to take it out of its pot and put it in, and I'm going to show you guys how it looks. So there's lots of roots, as you can see, and apparently these roots, they break fairly easy. And so what I want to do is leave it in the moss because it's what it's used to for now, but it'll get teased back into just bark. And so I think if I just kind of, the other thing I find is my bark gets packed easily, so I'm just using my fingers and I'm just gently, without hurting any roots, softening that up a bit, not too much. I'm going to just mostly let it be. There we go. And then, so it's getting left, basically, and the old growth is on this back side. I can put it a little bit to this side. The other thing is, I read that they like to feel stable in their environment. And that's what I do with the fells too. I often put a rock or some heavy paperweight I often put on them. Didn't have enough bark, really. Well, I think we'll make it for this one. It's very interesting. If you're thinking of getting one, check out as much as you can before you do. Now, I want the surface to be where it is. And this way, it will probably, with bark, it would probably get watered in this heat of our inside and outside because we don't have air conditioning. about twice a week. And they can take as much water. And that's one reason the glass, if I see it's still pretty humid, I'll leave it. I can see it. Much like the pots that everybody liked, and I like the plastic ones with all the air holes and for the phals. I haven't ordered any yet, but I plan to. So I think that's about how it's going to look. And in the bottom is the water well. And yes, it's dark, but it's dark from the, you see I can drain it and I can fill it. And I can let as much water sit down there as I want without disturbing the plant. And it sits in here. Pretty fancy, a bunch of things I got at the thrift store. Let's put this over here. Okay. Now, the little pot underneath is also water, which will send humidity up. So I can keep the pot that's about this deep in the bottom filled with water, so as it evaporates up, the plant will get humidity. It will be getting extra humidity because of the water well, and the roots aren't that low, and they don't like their roots too wet. Another thing with the problem with me of moss, I'd probably overwater it because the roots will rot, so I probably may not even water this for a week now. And at least I can see, and every time I do a video, we'll be checking on it. So this is a hybrid, and it's After Dark Baker's Burgundy Smile from Roehampton Orchids. So I can put that in there. And now, some people, because they like to be firm, they stake them. And I was going to run a stake in there, and I thought I really didn't have to. But if I think I have to, it seems pretty good. So I think we're good that way. There are multiple flowers, vigorous growing plants with a possibility of 3 to 4 flowerings a year. That sounds exciting. They like plenty of light, plenty of heat, water, and fertilizer. Well, I have lots of windows, and I've had them in the west windows that in the afternoon when it's getting direct sun, I do pull down the blinds because I really don't want them to get that much sun, especially in the glass. And so I really don't have to worry about the watering now. I don't think. I can keep a good eye on it. And Roehampton Orchids did say it was intermediate difficulty, medium to large plant, temperature warm to hot. So all that's pretty good. Light high during the growth season. I have lots of windows. It will definitely get good light. So, and as it looks like it, you increase the watering. And they do say media, bark mix, or sphagnum moss, coconut husk is well used because they live in the crotch of the palm tree. So that is also, and it says also to keep an eye on the leaves because it says rinse heavily during peak season because the leaves can produce a sap buildup that when growing under low humidity and will attract unwanted guests. So we don't want to attract unwanted guests. So I'm going to put this one aside. There, that's full of water, so I'll just do it gently. And I'll put it over here. There we go. And I'll get the next plant. I will get this one, and I have one other one because there was 3. Now, I have, okay, that was the Catasetum. Okay, this is Oncostele, Lavender Picotee, Tan Treasures, Wilsonara, Lavender Picotee. So this was the other one, and it is, these, I have one very similar, and it's outside already, and it did come in bark. So I'm not in a hurry to park it, to plant it in something else, because it is in bark and it is small. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. Staying in this pot for now. It's happy, it's growing, and I've decided to leave this one alone for now because it isn't the moss I have to worry about. There was some moss at the top, but on looking down, I don't see any moss. But because it's so small, I'm going to give it a little bit of water, and I'm not going to disturb it. There. Maybe a little dip in the Kelly Magic water with the seaweed extract. So, yeah, small bark, which is what I have. It's actually my bark. This bark is medium bark. Oh, I was going to show you that. I bought another bag at Buckerfield's, our local farm and garden store. And this is how big a bag I get. For $39, I get this huge bag of Rexius bark. And it's 56.6 liters, 2 cubic feet. So for that price, I can't beat it online because you got shipping and it's pretty good of them. I used to get the large, but now the medium is what I get. And to me, the medium is fairly small. I can always find small pieces to, oh yeah, I forgot. I did pick up some, you see they like a lot of fertilizer and water, the Catasetums, and quite often they use slow release. So I did pick some up today. It's 16-10-10 for plants, and use it sparingly. So only a few little pieces in here is probably enough. I got this at our nursery store, Nurseryland. So it's container food, and it's for plants, and it's made in Canada, and 16-10-10. And then for blooms, sometimes you can up that maybe later when it's getting near blooming time. I could think about adding, this way I don't have to fertilize all the time, but it will be getting watered once a week at least by whatever I have in my watering schedule. And this is 10-40-25 for blooming time or just before bloom, a power bloom booster. But we're not worried about that right now, so luckily I just remembered that. And now, so this one here is going to stay. Maybe I'll put it in this one because it's humid down there. There's water coming up. There's a wick under the pot. It's not sitting in water. You don't want it sitting in water, but it'll help keep it humid in this dry area. And my last plant is an epidendrum, and it's a reed orchid. Now, this one is in moss, and they can be, some places they can grow outside. This is Barred Sister My Love, and it's another hybrid, as all three of them were. And these can grow quite tall. They're quite forgiving, but I'll be coming back. I'm just going to put it in this little container. It has a hole in the bottom. It's clay, so I painted the outside so it's no longer as porous as it was clay, but there is quite a few holes. But I used more bark than I thought I was going to, so for now, I think I'll just sit it in the pot, and I'm just going to check it out. It's pretty wet. Now, I think I'm just going to set it in the moss until I have some more bark, and I'll come back and repot it when I have some more bark soaked for the next video. So rather than, no sense trying to do it when it's not quite how I want it. The reason I chose this heavier pot is because they can get quite tall and top heavy, and it's going to be a heavy, sturdy little pot. Yeah, not too big for the plant. So this has been sitting between my fells and the window in my sunny west window. So it's getting lots of light, but it's not gotten that hot direct sun because I do close the blinds at that time of the day. But it is feeling pretty wet still. So I think I'm just going to let it can get some air through these side holes, and I can keep an eye on it until I have some bark. And it'll be quite happy to go in a bark perlite mix, and I could also put a little lava rock in there too. So I have some of the brown lava rock that I prefer for in with the plant. So only because I seem to have read that a lot. So hopefully I covered this, and you know, I still have So Go Vivian, my little peloric orchid. She is still blooming. She's so tiny, and she's been in the north window, and her leaves are getting plenty of light because they're quite light colored. So I was kind of keeping an eye on that. And they're not, it can get a little west light because the roof is glass in that window. And my big lip phal is still blooming beautifully. And these phals here, it's amazing how hardy they are. And I'm watering, one water is my normal watering, and for all the rest of my orchids, the second one is just yesterday I went around with the watering can and just watered them all so that they had a little bit of humidity and a little bit of water. So I hope your late spring is going good, and we're happy. Mom's doing well. She's doing puzzle after puzzle, and we went out garage selling, and I found 3 or 4 of the fun ones for her to do. So she's busy doing them, and she likes to do them. But we keep them about 300 to 500 pieces now, so it's not too overwhelming. But wow, we'll be having a 100th birthday for her in December, and that'll be fun. And so anyway, thank you for joining me. Any questions you have or anything you want to tell me from what I'm doing, I'm open to listening, and it's just from watching the videos what I decided to do. And I am quite excited about it. Plus, this one, After Dark Burgundy Smile, well, the Catasetums can also get top heavy apparently. So I thought, what a better container. I can keep an eye on it because I'm not used to them. And like my phals are in the traffic cones I turn upside down paint, but I'm used to them. Over years of checking the pot, I know that they're happy, but this will be a good way for me to check it. And if you're new to orchids and you got your phals and see through things, well, that's a good thing. As long as you figure out whether you need that outside container or you don't. It will help hold more humidity in. So we just have to be aware of that. So that's it for now. And I'm glad to have you join me and happy to have your comments about the orchids. And yes, we're still enjoying blooms. I think we're going to make it into June with still flowers. Bye for now.